Probably that person. They've been arguing.
Probably so, yeah. Well, folks, today we're down south of Falfurrias, Texas. I'm with Dr. Mike Vickers, a local veterinarian by trade, but with a whole lot of other things going on that you're about to learn about today. So thank you for joining us today. And Dr. Vickers, thank you for your time and having us here on your ranch today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And, hope we can give you some information and some history on what's been happening here prior to President Trump showing up.
Great. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, tell us how you got started with the border volunteers here.
Well, this goes back actually a couple of decades, and what we were experiencing. My practice is a general practice that covers a lot of big ranch country. Mm-hmm. Down here in South Texas. We actually work in about 16 counties along the border. We specialize in cattle operations and cattle problems, horse problems, and just about every species, actually, African plains game, dogs and cats, everything. Mm-hmm. We have our main office is here in Brooks County, here in Falfurrias, and we're kind of centrally located between Corpus Christi, Laredo, and McAllen. And then we have a satellite office 35 miles west of here in Jim Hogg County in a community called Hubbardville, mm-hmm. About closer to Laredo. And we're probably the only veterinarians that provide this type of service. We have a huge veterinary facility with up-to-date lab work, everything. Mm-hmm. And we have a big clientele. Well, a couple of decades ago, the traffic started escalating. This was back in the 80s.
The illegal immigrants.
The smuggling traffic, or the people coming through our private property. Back in the 80s, we'd get people coming in here looking for a job. They'd come up to my front door, maybe 2 or 3 people at a time, ring the doorbell, you'd show up. They'd ask for water. Sometimes we'd give them food. Sometimes mm-hmm. they were lost. We'd help them, or we'd call the Border Patrol.
They were mostly good people back then.
Yeah,
sure.
Yes. And then during the Clinton administration, things started, the groups got bigger. The property damage increased, where they were tearing the fences down coming in, damaging the water sources. They'd come up to a windmill with a big pila or water source and break the float off so they could get fresh water coming out, mm-hmm. And leave that float off. Or what it would do, if the water source was run by a submergible pump, it'd burn that pump up in 24 hours, pumping water without any kind of control.
Sure.
That's about a $2,500 investment, having to fix that. Mm-hmm. And then the cattle in that particular pasture are without water. Mm-hmm. And so we were running into these kind of problems. And then the disposition of the people became more violent. We had people breaking into homes. They broke into my home, did $1,900 worth of damage to steal $3 worth of food. And it just kept escalating. And the groups got bigger and bigger. And finally, the dead bodies started showing up on private property. One in particular was a situation, this was back in 2005, maybe 2006. My wife went outside to check on the dogs in the front yard, and the dogs were playing with something that looked like a ball, and she walked over to check it, and it was a woman's skull, a human skull. Mm. And we call the Border Patrol, we get our ranch hands, and we find her about 100 yards west of our back door, and she had a broken leg. She'd been there a while. The coyotes and the varmints had already picked her bones clean. She had a full scalp of red hair that was not on the skull, and she had a broken leg. She didn't walk out there with a broken leg. Somebody abused her and broke her leg and left her there to die. And it probably took her a week to die. And this is what we started becoming confronted with. Not only us, but other clients of mine throughout South Texas area And it got so bad to the point that people were finding so many dead bodies on their property. They were having encounters with these groups that were becoming hostile, stealing trucks, breaking into their barns, burning their barns down, burning their houses down, ransacking their houses.
Mm-hmm.
I never will forget one of my clients. I had to go vaccinate a herd of horses for him, about 7 or 8 horses, on a ranch between Aguilares and San Ignacio in Webb County,
Mm-hmm.
east of Laredo. He met me at the front gate. We went into his ranch. He had a nice stucco home there. And out in front, he had a big show window in his front living room. They had taken his TV and thrown it through this show window, and had graffiti in Spanish written all over with spray paint all over his house. And the guy just broke down and started crying. And they had ransacked his house, and I never will forget that. And that was finally. After that incident and a lot of other incidents where clients have had to leave their ranch because of the threat of danger, because of the damage to the property, because of actual threats to their family. I had a guy down there on the river on a Partición ranch, had a truck loading up something on the river. He went down there in his truck to investigate, and a guy stuck an AK-47 in his ear and said, "Go home and don't call law enforcement. We know where you are. We know where your family is. We know where your kids go to school. We know where your wife, shops in town." That guy left, loaded up, and moved within 2 days to San Antonio to get away from that threat. And now that ranch is run by one ranch hand that shows up twice a week to check the water source. That's not only him, but everybody else that had a Partición ranch along the border also had the same type of encounters and circumstances and threats. And they've left their ranch to move to town to get away from that imminent threat or danger. And that's when we started. We started out with Minutemen, the Minutemen. A lot of us got together. We started out with Chris Simcox out of Arizona. He came down here. We had a big operation with the Minutemen, and this was back, I think, in 2004, maybe
Okay.
2000, early 2005. And our first op, we had. I think 162 volunteers show up. We covered a huge area. We caught hundreds of illegal aliens. And then we progressed on after that. And then finally, the operating protocol with Simcox's group, we found out it was a little too dangerous for us here because of the imminent threat of these cartels and the gang members that were working with them, the fact that a lot of them are carrying weapons and firearms. So we started our own organization called the Texas Border Volunteers. And there's a little over 300 of us. Over 70% of us are former veterans. And some of them full bird colonels in military intelligence. And so we started our own operations. And we were very successful at it. We were well received by the Border Patrol. We work hand in hand with the Border Patrol. We go out on all this private property that I just mentioned that we identified smuggling trails on. I think it was 2006. We had identified over 600 smuggling trails between Laredo, Texas, and the Gulf of America,
Yes, sir.
the coast. And we started watching these trails. And one of our first operations, we had just about 12 miles west of where we're sitting right now. We had a group of 47 people show up. We were able to get them apprehended. They scattered like a covey of quail. We got Border Patrol help. We ended up catching most of them. And that was our first border operation as Texas Border Volunteers. And since then, we've had this is going on almost 20 years ago.
So, not to interrupt you, This is strictly a volunteer organization.
It's absolutely a strictly volunteer operation. We have an operating protocol. We have a camouflage outfit that we wear, comparable to Navy SEALs. We have a vetting session. We don't just let anybody come. We have a vetting session when somebody applies to be a member. We don't turn them loose right off the bat. They go out with our members that know the country well, that know our operating protocol well, and eventually we'll be able to, after numerous operations, they'll be able to go out on their own or with others, or become leaders, and get out there and apprehend this traffic that's coming through this private property.
So these are just American patriots who fought overseas at some point in their life, defended their country, probably lost some of their comrades while they were doing it, and they come home and they're not going to sit in the living room and watch the news and hear about all these illegal crossings, and they're going to do something about it with you. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And one of our volunteers was a Vietnam veteran. He just passed away last year from Corpus Christi area, and he was a Green Beret. He parachuted into Cambodia, and his parachute didn't open. He landed in a tree, and the parachute saved his life, but it broke both of his legs. And of course, the Viet Cong were coming after him, and he eliminated a whole mess of them before he was able to be rescued. And that guy was an engineer, and he was an Army weapons expert, and he'd build rifles. And then in his spare time, he would take new rifles, take them out for different companies that made them, Ruger, Winchester, sight them in and shoot them for a week, put 1,000 rounds through them, and then write a story for Guns and Ammo or Hunter Magazine. A great guy, and he was one of our volunteers. Just an example.
Yeah.
Just an example. And a lot of other veterans, the same thing. They spent time in Fallujah, Vietnam, you name it. They were seasoned combat veterans, and they were sick and tired of watching this invasion of our country perpetrated by the Democrats and left unnoticed, compromising the Border Patrol's ability to respond. And we knew we had to do something to step up and shut down this traffic that's coming in through the ports of entry, where the Border Patrol did not have the manpower and the resources to watch those trails on private property, running everybody off their property, devaluating their property, destroying their property. So that's what we did, and we've been doing it ever since. Wow. We've actually caught thousands of people from at least 62 different countries, over 48% of them with criminal records from the country they came from. Gang members, every kind of gang on the planet of the earth. People from China, from the Middle East, you name it, Central America, South America. And in fact, most of our apprehensions were not people from our neighbor in Mexico. Over 82% of them were from the rest of the country. The planet, excuse me.
Right.
And that's what we did, and we still do it. We had an operation just a few months ago, and it was pretty quiet. Trump has actually shut it down. And during Obama and Biden, just in Brooks County alone, we probably, with the sheriff's department, ranch hands, and ourselves, probably found over 1,000 dead bodies that showed up on private property in Brooks County. These are people left behind. They're told there'll be a group of 30 or 35. They drop them off 30 miles south of here. They point in the direction of Houston, say, Houston, you'll be able to see Houston in 30 minutes. It's only going to be about an hour walk. Well, 3 or 4 hours later, they're cramping up, they're getting dehydrated, they're going down, and they walk off and leave them. They don't call 911, they walk off and leave them, and that's where we find them.
Yeah, so it's not just a danger to you and the other people that live in this part of the world, but it's a humanitarian issue.
Absolutely. We witnessed the depravity of man. People out there getting lost. We've rescued hundreds of kids, children, left behind. Hundreds of people, thousands of people that are left behind, don't know where they are, and we rescue them and get them brought to safety, and get the Border Patrol to pick them up, or the Texas Rangers or DPS we also work with now.
Right.
And we see the depravity of man. We've found people on the verge of dying, people cramped up so bad that they couldn't walk, and we've had them halo flighted out of here, hundreds of them. And now under Trump, zero.
So talk about that for a minute. Let's go back to, since you started, there have been obviously multiple presidencies. What's the difference? What's the contrast between the different terms and how much support you get?
Well, a good question. Under Biden and Obama, they have all these false reports about the numbers that they caught, but they don't say anything about the thousands that we encountered coming into private property between the ports of entry. And that explains the dead body counts under Biden and Obama in Brooks County, Texas. That's just in Brooks County, Texas, in the neighborhood of 1,000 dead bodies. We only find 15 or 20% of them.
Right.
They disappear real quick. The wild hogs, the coyotes eat them up, the mountain lions eat them up, the buzzards eat them up, and then the rats eat the bones. I just here probably earlier this year, I took the scapula, a bone out of a cow's throat that was choked on it, and I hadn't had it analyzed yet, but I think it's a human scapula that's been out there for a while. And that's what animals will do here. This is a calcium deficient area. Livestock will chew on bones, and this cow had a scapula stuck in her throat.
Wow.
And this is what we were faced with.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And under Biden and Obama, we'd have nights where we'd have 150 reported and trying to get them all apprehended, covering an 18-mile stretch north of the biggest checkpoint in the United States on US 281. And the same thing south in the drop-off zone, watching that area as well, and trying to get this traffic apprehended. A majority of it, or a large portion of it, gang members and people with criminal records. So that's what we do.
You were telling me earlier that when one of the presidents came in, that they grounded a bunch of their equipment and shut down a lot of the communication and whatnot of Border Patrol and Homeland Security.
Actually, that was for 8 months under Obama.
Okay.
And parked our air support. The Border Patrol air support was parked their four-wheel drive vehicles, which was a huge compromise to their ability to go out on this private property in this deep sand, this desert,
right,
to help us apprehend the traffic. Shut down the overtime, shut down the brush crews, made them take their dogs home. We built a Border Patrol kennel for the Border Patrol to utilize to.
And you took care of all the dogs, I'm sure.
Yeah, all those guys had to take their dogs home. The list goes on and on and on, and it compromised our border operations. And the bad guys knew it. That's why the traffic was pouring in here, and no air support. No four-wheel drive vehicles. We were catching these groups, and we'd have to help bring the Border Patrol in our four-wheel drive vehicles to go ahead and get them handcuffed, and we'd have to walk them out, sometimes 2 or 3 miles.
Right.
And that's what Obama did to us. Not only that, but it increased the traffic coming through all of our private property, which endangered our lives as people that lived on that private property, increasing the exit of landowners and their ranch hands.
Sure.
Leaving the property because of the imminent threat of danger.
Yeah.
And this is what Obama and Biden did. And then Biden did the same thing in his first several years as president under his administration. And we probably found in the neighborhood of at least 300 bodies. Again, we only find 15 or 20% of them. One of the last ones was a woman that died probably less than 400 yards from where we're standing. I have pictures of a rape tree probably about 75 yards from where we're standing. And that rape tree was there for about 5 years on a smuggling trail. And it changed garments at least 7 or 8 times. And one of the last times, it was a nude girl from Mexico left there dead. And this is what we had to deal with. We found rape trees all across the area. And this is a situation where the coyote sexually assaults and rapes one or two of the girls in that group, and sometimes leave them to die. We actually found one rape tree several miles from here, real close to the highway, where there was blood all over the area where the rape tree was, and somebody, the body more than likely, was dragged all the way to the highway and loaded up. We found exactly where the vehicle pulled up 1 mile north of the checkpoint and loaded it up, and blood all over the area there, and they put her in a trunk and headed north. So it wouldn't ruin the area from somebody finding it.
Right.
Well, we found it.
Right. So you mentioned the coyotes. Talk about the criminal element that's actually escorting, because early on we mentioned the fact that we had people coming here looking for work that were good people, good Christian, Mexican Christian people. They were just looking for work. It turned into a criminal enterprise with various groups helping them get across, but they weren't helping them. They were charging them and mistreating them. So talk a little bit about, who's helping them get across the border and at what expense.
Well, the cartels made billions of dollars, especially under Biden. When he allowed all these people to come in here, the cartels were actually collecting a lot of money from those people. Central Americans paying $7,500. Mexicans, up to 3,000 or more. People from Mexico. But here again, like I said, the people we were catching, 82% of them were from other countries, not Mexico. Most of the Mexican people that were coming, a lot of them actually even have family members here. There's a huge segment of our population that are Hispanic people. I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic people. Some of them's family go back to Mexico for centuries.
Sure.
And I actually have a lot of Mexican clients in Mexico. I do a lot of export work into Mexico, horses, cattle, African plains game, captive deer, everything. And have a lot of ranch clients that I do business with in Mexico. I used to go to Mexico frequently and spend time down there on big ranches, helping them with their livestock operations. So, but the point is, the cartels were still scalping people for money. $7,500 for Central Americans, 75, anywhere from 40 to 75,000 for Chinese, people from China being brought in here. People from India, $27,000 to $28,000 a person. We've actually sat down on these people and waited for help from the Border Patrol to get them moved in and processed. And we visit with them, and some of them speak English. We speak Spanish. But this is how we find out what they're having to pay. And in one morning, we saved 4 people that were spread out a mile apart on different trails that were cramped up so bad they couldn't walk, and we got them flown to safety and flown to the hospital to get IVs and to be treated. And these people would visit with us on how much they had to spend, and a couple of them were from Guatemala, one of them from El Salvador. And they told me that they had to mortgage their home for the $7,500 to be brought in here. They had 90 days to make a significant payment. They were being charged
back to the cartel.
Yeah, back to the cartels, and they had to pay a 30% interest. And if they didn't pay anything or a significant amount back after they worked for 90 days, and they didn't pay a significant amount back, the cartels went in there, kicked the family out, and sell the home to somebody else. So these people are having a real problem by even getting caught, because they end up losing their home and everything they have.
Sure.
And this is the cartels controlling this. And but now under Trump, it's basically almost 100% shut down. We just had some traffic today. We had the Border Patrol out here. We had a group of 4 on a camera hit just right out close to my house.
You mentioned a camera hit. What kind of cameras do you use, and how many do you have out there?
Well, that's a good question. Back, I guess it's been a number of years ago, the head of the DPS, Colonel Steve McCraw, came out. He knew what we were doing, came out and went out with us and saw what we were doing. And he said, well, we got to fix this. And then the head of the Texas Rangers, Hank Whitman, also came by and visited with us. And they wanted us to put some cameras out so that they could monitor them at the DPS location off Lamar in Austin, Texas. And on the whole 3rd floor of that DPS building, they've got state guardsmen watching these camera sources. But anyway, they came to us, gave us, I think we started with 10, maybe 20 cameras, and we put them out on these smuggling trails, and they started monitoring them. And then we got with the Border Patrol, and at that time, the Border Patrol had different radio signals than state law enforcement. And so we started, we got the Border Patrol and the Texas Rangers and the DPS together to have the same, and ourselves, to have the same radio frequency so we could communicate back and forth. And then the Border Patrol started monitoring these cameras. Our first week with our putting those cameras out, on one camera hit in an area we call the Arroyo, we had 989 hits of different groups coming through in 1 week.
Not 989 people.
989 people. Wow. 989 people. There'd be a group of 50, then a group of 60 a couple of hours later. Then the next day it'd be a group of 40. Mm-hmm. We had 989 hits. Wow. And we did
one
that.
Trail.
Yeah, on one trail. Mm-hmm. We did those. We gave some to the Border Patrol. Unfortunately, it was tricky because back in those days, the cameras were real big. And my wife, Linda, learned how to put them out where they'd take pictures of people going away from the trail, headed north, instead of going into the trail.
See them.
Border Patrol, unfortunately, had 4 of them stolen
right,
and torn up.
Right.
But anyway, we did that for 5 years for the Texas Rangers, putting those cameras out. And it was a tremendous project and a very positive project. And I think now they probably have as many as 10,000 of those cameras. Other countries have come to see how they work and have invested in those camera systems that have smuggling traffic into their countries. Mm-hmm. And after 5 years, the Border Patrol now put those cameras out, as do state law enforcement and our local sheriffs. Sheriffs along the border up to 100 miles north of the border, even further, have access to those cameras. And they're a game changer.
Right. So now you have all the state and federal agencies working together. You guys have the local knowledge, show them where to look and what to look for. You start catching all these guys, and then certain administrations start just cutting them loose. So they turn around and come back again. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And that's under Biden, and it's a stab in the back to our Border Patrol friends and colleagues and helpers. And some of them are just absolutely devastated by it. It's doing just the opposite of what they were trained to do. And it's been a big, big problem. A lot of them have quit. They said, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, a lot of good ones have stayed. Those are the greatest people in the world that we have to protect us from this open border situation that we had had to deal with. Mm-hmm. And that's why we wanted to help them. Yeah. We wanted to cover all areas that they couldn't cover, and that's exactly what we did.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
What a story. Going 20-something years now.
Yeah, exactly. Going on 20 years.
Wow. And so you flash forward today, Trump has, a lot of it just by signaling slowed down a lot of the traffic, or probably all of the honest traffic has been stopped as of today. But who's crossing the border now? Because they're still doing it. You're still catching
Well, we'll always have traffic. We've had just sporadic, real sporadic. Over in the Hubbardville area, the county next to us, we've got some drug packers bringing bundles in on pipelines. Not every day, not every week, maybe once or twice a month, but we get camera hits on that. And then the same thing here. We had 6 Chinese caught here a little over 3 weeks ago, coming through private property. And then a few days later, they caught 3 in a pickup that at the checkpoint 4.5 miles south of here. That's our closest neighbor, the Border Patrol checkpoint, 4.5 miles south of here. Our next closest neighbor is about 7 miles from here. And anyway, one of them had $130,000 on him.
cash money.
Yeah, and this is something else we're encountering, and we've been encountering for 2 or 3 years, is traffic headed south around the checkpoint.
Yeah, explain that. I don't understand that.
Well, Governor Abbott has really put the pressure on the smuggling. Besides the Border Patrol doing a great job, the state has stepped up, have sent hundreds of DPS agents down here, DPS, and they're doing a fantastic job monitoring the highways. And what we're finding, and we've caught a number of these guys headed south, 3 or 4 at a time with a backpack. But by the time we catch them, usually they've buried that backpack. And what they do, they come in the sand. And probably a week later or 4 or 5 days later, when things cool down a little bit, they'll come back out here, get dropped off, go pick that backpack up, go finish their trip around the checkpoint, get picked up, and head south.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we had a rancher and a situation where we were able to get some caught, and one of them didn't bury his backpack. So we were able to see what was in it. He had a backpack with $30,000 in it. And so these are drug dealers that were bringing their payload for delivering the drugs back with them in those backpacks. And that's what we found out was going on. And that's why they were headed south. And they definitely didn't want to get caught by or pulled over by a DPS agent with a dog in his car to put that dog on the trunk or the car and find that money.
Right.
And that's what they're doing.
So they went that way carrying drugs, and they're going that way carrying cash.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and we've got some drawbridge camera hits of a lot of the drug dealers. 2 guys early on had backpacks, and we had 8 different drawbridge camera hits of those same 2 guys, and we finally got them caught, and they were hauling cocaine and 30, 40 pounds of cocaine, and were probably armed, but as soon as they knew they were going to get caught, they buried their backpack and they buried the gun. But we had photos of them, so we knew they were smuggling, and we also had shoe prints that law enforcement was able to trace those shoe prints to them with those backpacks, and they're in jail.
Wow. So for people that don't know this about this particular region, where this area south of Falfurrias, there's an area that runs east and west that's called the Sand Sheet. Big oak trees that throw a lot of shade and very, very deep sand. It's all 4-wheel drive only. And these guys and gals can bury a gun or a backpack in this sand in about 2 minutes. I mean, you can literally drop to your knees, dig a hole, and bury a gun and be on your way. So that's what you're talking about, is they're burying cash and guns and backpacks and whatever they have.
That's exactly right. There's ways that they can deceive law enforcement or the Border Patrol by burying that pack. And we've had that happen so many times. We'd see, or we'd get a camera hit of 10 guys carrying bundles, and we knew exactly the trail they were on. We were waiting for them. And then we get the Border Patrol behind them to track them. And, obviously, they suspected something. Maybe saw the Border Patrol coming in at night, behind them, saw lights, which is so uncharacteristic for this area because nobody's out here at night,
Right.
Except us or the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'd bury those bundles. And by the time we got up, they got 2 miles up the trail, and we get them caught.
No evidence.
No bundles. And so, but we've actually found some when we go back and trace their tracks, and we're able to find some of those areas where they buried them.
Mm.
So that was not very frequently, unfortunately, but it's something that we dealt with frequently, though.
Right. And I found it interesting. You showed me an image earlier of bundles of hundreds of dollars of bills that were confiscated, through one of these operations, and it was U.S. dollars with the ribbon still around it, drawn on local banks. That's pretty interesting that they're that infiltrated here.
Well, we actually that particular bank, I've got some clients that are directors there,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them spend a lot of time in Mexico.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't surprise me that some of these banks, if somebody walks in there with a suitcase full of cash, I'm not saying every bank is going to do that. There's laws against that. If you got over $10,000, I actually had a situation myself where I had a ranch on the river, and it was a ranch that was part of Mexico. 150 years ago, the river changed course and went around that piece of property. It was less than 200 acres, but it was a pretty good sized piece of property. And it belonged to some people from Tampico. And I was able to buy it from them. Well, they came up here to do the deal. Well, they wanted to carry back the down payment of $60,000 in a suitcase. And I said, I can't do that. So we ended up getting it fixed, and they took a cashier's check, and everything worked out.
Right.
And I owned the property for a long time. But it was a huge smuggling area. In 2 days, right on the river, beautiful place, big cypress trees, everything, smuggling trails through it. And the Border Patrol apprehended 2 different groups of drug dealers. It was real close, right in the middle of the Santa Ana Refuge, actually. And they caught 2 different smuggling groups, both of them with 2,400 pounds in bundles coming across that property. And so it was dangerous. I ended up selling it to Federal Fish and Game, and it's part of the wildlife
U.S. Fish and Wildlife
Refuge now.
Good.
So,
that's a
but
good
even
use
that
for it.
is a problem because the Department of Interior didn't like the Border Patrol coming out there because it scared the white-winged doves and the other wildlife off their nests and all that kind of stuff. And so it's one federal agency against the other. One of them wants to catch the bad guys in that area, in that game reserve. And the game reserve Department of Interior didn't want them in there scaring the wildlife. So anyway, it is what it is. I don't know how they ever got that resolved, because I washed my hands of it and left.
Right. Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Well, you mentioned that you're finding dead bodies out here in the brush, and lots of them, but not all of them died natural causes from overheating or starvation or what have you, but criminal activity.
Well,
you found some hanging.
All of them are homicides because they walk off and leave them. They
True.
get cramped up, they get dehydrated, they go down. I've actually rescued some. One guy was halfway between Zapata and Hebbronville, Texas. I was coming back from a ranch call one night at 10:30. And this was about 20 miles south of Hebbronville on Highway 16. I I was driving along there headed home, and there was a young guy flagging me down, and I knew it was probably a setup. He was an illegal. So I stopped and turned around and went back, and there was a guy laying there with him, an older gentleman, and he was in a group of 40 headed through, and his grandfather had passed out, fainted from dehydration, and they drug him to the road and left him there, and his grandson, 16 years old, stayed there with him until somebody stopped, and I stopped. And he told me what happened, and he jumped across the fence and took off running. And it was a real cold night. It was like it was probably close to 25 degrees. That guy was about to die. And fortunately, I pulled him up underneath the engine, and I had no phone service. That was back in the bag phone days. And a guy came along, and I waved him down. He was headed to an oil rig for the night crew. And he helped me load him in his truck. And finally, I was able to get a couple of miles down the road, and I called ahead for EMS and 911 in Hubbardville. Their ambulance had a flat, couldn't come. So I had to call Alice, Texas, which was significant distance away, and I was able to meet that ambulance and transport that guy. They took him to the hospital, and he survived. Had another situation similar a few years later. I was coming back from a call in Hubbardville from my office in Hubbardville. Same thing. It was about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and there was a guy laying on the side of the road, and he sat up and waved at me. And something told me, I said, I know it's a setup. So I went down about a mile, turned around, came back, put the headlights on him, and I got out. I'm always armed. And he told me in Spanish what happened. And I shined a light on him. He was so weak he couldn't stand up. I shined a light on him from mid-chest down on his left side. He was soaking. He had khaki shirt on and khaki pants. He was soaking wet with blood. He had a ranch 5 miles south in the middle of a big ranch. He was working on his cow pens, and two guys come up and tell him, we want you to take us to Benavides, which is on the highway going to Houston further north. He said, I'm not taking y'all anywhere. Y'all get the hell off my ranch, talking to him in Spanish. And they pull a gun on him. They rob him. They tie him to a tree, shoot him twice, and leave him there and steal his truck. And he's able to get himself untied, and he walked until he couldn't walk anymore and crawled to the highway. I was able to get him in the truck, pick him up and put him in the truck. I was able to get a tourniquet on his femoral artery on his thigh. I was able to get him wrapped and get the
good thing you had medical training.
Keep him from I had material that I could keep him from dying. And I made him drink I had a gallon of fresh water. I told him to drink that water right now. And I rushed him to Falfurrias, and we have a little hospital there at that time, and took him to the emergency room. They couldn't do much for him, but they got him stabilized and halo flighted him to Corpus Christi, and he survived.
Wow.
He could have died.
That's an American citizen ranch owner.
Yeah.
That was minding his own business.
Yeah, exactly. And, you mentioned how many people die of being left behind. They're all left behind. Or the coyote runs off and leaves them trying to flee law enforcement and leaves them there, and then maybe some of them run and get lost, and then they can't find their way back with the group.
Sure.
And that's the same way with kids. We found lots of children that were told, if the Border Patrol show up, run and hide. And that's exactly what they do. And we go out there and try to look for them. And we had a situation like that years ago in that area that I just mentioned, Hubbardville. We had a group of 60 show up at a guy's ranch, and he called the Border Patrol. Well, they couldn't come. They had all their agents out. They called us. We were over there real quick, 8 of our volunteers, and we held them. And then we were able to get the Border Patrol out there. Well, when they saw the Border Patrol coming, they scattered like a covey of quail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we helped them gather up a bunch of them, and then they were out there driving around in high grass. Well, they accidentally ran over one, didn't even know it, and we found the guy. Border Patrol tracks, and they'd run over the guy and killed him. But nothing was ever said about that. But same thing with us. We don't go out there in vehicles to drive around in that high grass when we bust a group like that, because we've actually had situations where even with our Polaris's and stuff, we've come real close to running over some of these children. And we see a little spot of blue, and we get out and walk over there, and it's a 6-7-year-old kid rolled up in a ball hiding from us.
Trying to hide.
Yeah, and we've recovered hundreds of children that have run from us or run from the Border Patrol, and we find them 2 or 3 days later. A lot of them within 10 minutes of where we're sitting right now.
Right. Yeah, you're kind of ground zero here on the north side of that check
No
station.
question. But you talk about the money. I mentioned all the different. I mean, the cartels are absolutely probably in every single country on the planet, smuggling people in here, and that's what we're dealing with.
Golly, that is just so spooky.
Thank God for President Trump. He's shut it down almost 100%.
Right.
99.9.
Yep.
It's going to be something we're going to be dealing with from now on.
Forever. Yeah, it's
right here on
away.
the border.
So people know the magnitude of what you do. You mentioned some of your operations. How many volunteers and Border Patrol agents, et cetera, in a group? And how big of groups have you apprehended in one day or one night? How big of a group?
Oh, gosh, too many to count. I'd have to go back and look at the statistics. But we've got it. We've got a logbook on every group that we've encountered and caught, and in a lot of cases, the disposition of that group, where they're from. And but the numbers are staggering.
Some of those are approaching 100.
Yeah. We
group,
probably caught at least over 10,000, and a significant over 48% of them with criminal records.
Right.
And we've got those numbers. But I'd have to go back and spend a whole day counting them,
Well, just off the top of your head, what's the biggest group you ever caught in one instance?
I guess that group of 110 where we caught 89 that night during the Obama and Biden, and it was like following a herd of cattle. And we had 2 agents to help us. That was one of the biggest groups that numbers-wise we caught.
Yeah.
But a lot of the groups we catch, we'd catch a lot of them at night. But then the next morning when the sun comes up, we're out there catching the rest of them.
Right.
Yeah. So, and sometimes, that could be a second group coming through, or it could be some out of the first group that we encountered that night and caught a significant number of them out.
Right.
So, but we try to put that all together. But we've had groups like 150. And
yeah. So in order to do that, you've got tremendous resources.
Yeah.
You're using drones with infrared sensors, helicopters, dogs. I mean, limitless. And it's fantastic that you actually have that kind of coordination today, because you probably didn't have that 20 years ago where everyone was working together.
Of course, for 8 months, we didn't have any of that. We had to do it on our own. Right. And all of our ranch owners and landowners were dealing with that imminent threat of danger as a result of that administration.
Yeah.
And but Trump's the guy. And unfortunately, we really don't know how many millions of people came through between the ports of entry during those periods of time when we weren't out there. Our operations were usually, back in the early days, October and March for the whole month we'd be out here. Have a lot of retired guys and, of course, a lot of our guys, former veterans, out here during that whole month. And, we've caught as many as 804 in 1 week, you know, but also finding dead bodies, finding people left behind, finding kids left behind, all of that. And then the other months, we'd usually have a 7 to 10 day op. We've all scaled that down considerably because of the lack of traffic during the Trump administration.
Sure.
But, we'd have, usually anywhere from 30 to 60 or 70 people here. Sometimes on special events where we have congressmen coming out and going out with us, or we have DPS helicopters coming in and flying them around, our senators and representatives.
That's right. You bring in
we have
groups
we have a bigger bunch of volunteers show up to help in that operation.
So you're doing educational outreach.
Absolutely.
You're bringing in politicians from around the country, from different states, right here, and showing them what's going on.
We've given our slide presentation and to the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association convention, other conventions as well. Showed our documentaries, showed our pictures, have our pictures, hundreds of pictures blown up of the dead bodies of all the groups that we catch, and we've done that all over Texas.
Wow.
And given presentations to Republican groups all over Athens, Texas, Dallas, Texas, all over, Tyler, Texas, San Antonio, New Brunswick,
Good for you.
Everywhere.
Good for
Laredo, everywhere.
People need to know what's going on.
Yeah, they know what we're doing.
And that it hadn't stopped.
No.
Despite Trump's efforts, there's still that criminal element that's going to continue doing that.
Exactly.
And I have to ask you this question. To me, Tom Homan seems like a rock star. I love that guy on TV, but I've never laid eyes on him in person. Have you met him?
We certainly have. Before the election, he was here.
Oh, he came here?
He came here. We took him out. We showed him exactly what was going on. And with that, we're in one of his documentaries, maybe two of them. I think we're in 2 documentaries. We're in several other documentaries also that are online. There's one, They Come to America Too, done by a journalist out of New York. We're in his documentary, and this was back during Biden and Obama. And it's a good documentary. And we're in a lot of documentaries, and we've had a lot of people go out with us. We've had CNN here. We've had Fox News. We've had MSNBC, if you can imagine that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
You must have bought their plane tickets.
Well, they want to interview us. We've been interviewed by them and local media, Texas media. We've been well received by all law enforcement agencies, and we've been all over the United States reporting and providing information to different venues to show what we do and what's really happening along this Texas border.
You've been to Mar-a-Lago a couple times, haven't you?
Well, I have, and I was a speaker at Trump's place with Tom Homan, and it was the premiere of one of his documentaries. I think the name of it was the Death County, which is the county we live in, Brooks County, and the River of Broken Dreams. All the people dying or getting left behind, being misled by the cartels and the gang members and the criminals that are bringing them in here and leaving them here to die. So he's been there, and I've been there, and I was a speaker.
Super.
So
I bet that was quite an honor.
And President Trump was there, and he was a speaker for 45 minutes. And at that particular venue or event, it was the premiere of that documentary that Tom Homan did here in Brooks County. And there were 135 people invited, and 135 people that were invited showed up.
Amazing.
So it was a great event. So also given a presentation to the Attorney General's office in Florida before a 24-member grand jury at a locked federal courthouse. We've been to Phoenix, been to Washington, D.C., been to a lot of places to report exactly the truth on what's happening here
Man, good for
or
you.
what has happened.
Right, right. What has happened? Yeah, the part that kind of caught my attention when you and I were speaking this morning before we got here. Um, Actually, after we got here, you showed me a photograph of an illegal hanging from a tree with a pair of blue jeans tied around his neck. What does that mean to you? Why would he get hung and out in the pasture like that?
Well, this is a situation where no question the coyote used him for doing a signal, giving a signal, or and what happened and what we suspect happened on that particular smuggling trail. We watched that trail. It's less than a mile from here, and the Border Patrol watch it. Okay, and we think what happened on that trail, 400 or 500 yards further south, there is a cross fence that you have to cross. And we feel like, and there's a sign there in Spanish saying if you're sick or you can't keep up or you're injured, call 911, call this number. Well, we feel like the coyote caught this guy with his cell phone calling.
Just real quick, in Brooks County, where does the 911 call go to?
Well, that's where I'm getting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. All 911 calls here go to the Border Patrol, which gives the location of where that 911 call is coming from, and signals the Border Patrol to go to that
So they
location.
get coordinates, right?
So he called the 911, and obviously the coyote caught him and hung him in front of the group with that pair of blue jeans as punishment for notifying the Border Patrol of their location. Now, the medical examiner thinks it could have been a suicide. We don't think so. But it is what it is.
Sure.
And we've found other situations with dead people where we suspect they were punished or murdered by the coyote.
Right.
It's just like the rape tree incident where we found blood everywhere, and that body was dragged 50 yards to the highway, 1 mile north of the checkpoint, and loaded up in a car, probably in the trunk, with blood everywhere. Somebody was dead or got killed at that rape tree. And so no telling how many people are murdered out here. It's just like the Mexican girl at the rape tree I mentioned that we found their dead body probably less than 75 yards from here.
Mm.
And so we know that people are dispensable. Humans are dispensable. And we've seen the depravity of man, and we don't want to ever see it again.
Well, I admire your efforts for doing everything you can to fix that.
Well, we're not going to go away. We've got a border op coming up here pretty soon. We're going to be covering a lot of country.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be monitoring a lot of these trails. We're going to have our camera systems out again. We have our own camera systems besides the drawbridge cameras. And we're going to be working hand in hand with the Border Patrol, hand in hand with the DPS brush crews. They use this ranch to train on. They'll be bringing their drones and their track dogs, and we'll be working with the Texas Rangers also. And we're not going away. We're going to keep it up.
That's what it takes.
And that's what we're here for, to catch criminal activity on private property.
Sure. And just, I think it's important for people to know that aren't from this part of the world. In the southern half of Texas, all of the state now, the Hispanic culture is so embedded amongst us. It's part of our lives. You speak Spanish. I can speak a little bit of Spanish. We've all grown up together, and there's no race down here. We're all friends. We're all Christians.
Yeah.
And the media would have all of us believe that you're against Mexicans, or you're against Central Americans, or you're against immigration. You're not against any of that. you're actually for those people. You're working to protect them and our country. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And this underserved area described by the USDA and the Animal Health Commission, there's probably 6 counties in this area that my Hubbardville area is an underserved area. And probably 95% of my clients are of Hispanic heritage. I cherish the Spanish heritage.
Absolutely.
See that? That's Mexican food right there.
I call that vitamin
Last
T.
night. But I've worked in Mexico ever since I started as a veterinarian back in 1973. I have a lot of wonderful friends in Mexico. I work with a lot of Mexican ranchers. I do a lot of consultation work for them. We do a lot of exporting for them where they come over here and buy livestock, horses, captive game, African plains game, all of that. And I do the exports for them. And
we all get along good down here.
They're my close friends.
Sure.
And they've been run off the ranches. And some of them even have relatives that fought at the Alamo. There were probably at least 20 Hispanic people that died at the Alamo. And then Juan Seguin at, with Colonel Houston, it's they were here first.
Sure.
And then we show up, and now we're a big family.
Right.
And that's the way it is. And that's the way I like it.
Me too. I'm with you.
We're all the same. We all have red blood.
That's right.
And, I love it here.
Me too. I've never understood all of the money and resources that we spend in foreign countries when we have a beautiful country right next door full of good, solid Christians with cultures that have blended so well. And if we provided the kind of support south of us, the way we do overseas, it would be a different story.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I've been all over Mexico, spent a lot of time there.
Me too, sure.
Until it got too dangerous, and I had a bounty on my head for running the Texas Border Volunteers.
Then there's that.
And then in the Reynosa Spanish radio, they were telling people to be sure and watch out for the Texas Border Patrol, border volunteers. But that's okay. That's what they know it. And quite frankly, we've had a lot of Mexican ranchers along the river that have Partición type ranches along the river. And one of them in particular from Austin, she's here legally. She's an American citizen. Her family's had that ranch since the 1870s.
Wow.
The cartels ran their family off the ranch. It's up the river between Laredo and Eagle Pass. And she saw us in documentaries, called me personally and asked me if I could if we could go over there and run the cartels off of her ranch. I said, I can't do that, but I'll get them run off. And what I did, I told her to send us the GPS coordinates. I've got pictures of her ranch where they ransacked the home, destroyed it, and then moved in, and now they were running smuggling operations out of that ranch. This is a few years ago. I was a speaker in Austin a couple of years ago at the Capitol. Ted Nugent played, and others were speakers. And our border volunteers had front seats at that event, and I invited her to sit there with our border volunteers. But what I did, I took those coordinates to the DPS and to the Border Patrol. The DPS started flying their helicopters over the river on that location, and the Border Patrol put an aerostat up right across from her ranch that reaches out 30 miles in every direction to take every picture of everybody that crosses. They left. They left.
Is that one of the blimps that they deploy?
Yeah, it's a blimp. It's an aerostat.
Yeah.
We've had them here. She sent me a message, it's been about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that she went to Piedras Negras, right across from Eagle Pass, and paid the taxes, and the families moved back to the ranch.
Excellent.
Yeah. So this is what we did.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah. So that's our connection with law enforcement and the Border Patrol, but it's also our ability to reach people in Mexico that have significant problems with the cartels. I've got people that I've exported cattle for to their ranch in Mexico, and they got run off their ranch, further into the interior, state of Tamaulipas, one in the state of Nuevo Leon, and we take that to the Border Patrol, and they take it to ICE, and somehow the connection with our federal government and the Mexican government the federales have gone in there and run them off that ranch, and the people are able to move back. So
we're getting
there's
this
good
done on
things
both
happen
sides.
when we step up and help law enforcement provide that information, so something not only can be done in Texas or anywhere else in the United States, but also in Mexico.
Public-private partnerships work.
Yeah.
They absolutely work. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy we sat down today, because this isn't a doom and gloom story to me. This is a success story that shows what happens when citizens take a vested interest in their own damn future instead of waiting on the government to take care of it.
Well, that's right.
And then when you get the right administration in place that'll hold your hand and work with you hand in hand, we can get things done. And there's always going to be crossings, but it's nothing like it was before. Nothing.
Oh, exactly.
And in large part because of you and your volunteers. And I know everybody out there appreciates everything you've done.
Well, we're not through. But,
how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? How many years young?
76.
You're 76. And when are you going to quit doing this?
Probably the day I die.
That's what I thought. I was kind of expecting that answer.
Well, we've made a lot of friends, and we've helped a lot of people, not just the ranchers that have been run off their ranch or the law enforcement, state and federal, but also the poor people that are being capitalized on being brought in here. There's some wonderful people that are coming from other countries that are not criminals.
Exactly.
And are being dehumanized and mistreated and even murdered. All of these people, in my opinion, that are dying on private property or that are being left behind, those are homicides.
Right.
And there's somebody in charge that's leaving them here or walking off and leaving them.
Right.
And that's something we want to make sure never happens again.
We don't want to stop immigration. We want to stop illegal immigration, and we want pathways to this country that are legal across bridges and not over rivers and through the brush country where they're risking their lives to get here.
Well,
Let's bring the good people in here and let's make it easy for them.
Well, that's exactly right. And we see the effects of Trump and Tom Homan going into these sanctuary cities, and I'm totally for that. I mean, we need to do that and shut those down. All the fraud involved, and all the threats involved, and all the criminal activity involved. We had a situation here in Texas, or in Houston, and even up close to Rockport and Victoria, where there was some prostitution going on, brothels, and all of the girls involved and all the people involved were here illegally. This was for a few years ago.
You're kidding me. I did not know.
And it's people that came right through here. I was at a skiing event in Utah, my wife and I, and there was a guy at the taking the people up in the conveyor, to go skiing. And I was talking to him there. I could tell he was, of Spanish descent. And I started talking to him, and he told me he came right through South Texas here, And damn, he ran into a pack of dogs that got after him and tried to put him in a tree. And somebody called the dogs off. Well, those were our dogs. And he had a job in Utah running the conveyor going up the ski. You know, I got a kick out of that, you know. Yeah, he said he ran into a bunch of dogs that got after him and put him up a tree, but we called the dogs off and he was able to get away.
What a small world. That's an incredible story.
True story. I never will forget. He was wearing a blue jacket. He and I had a great conversation. Then I went up skied, and he was there the next day. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you, so many of these people are working in the dark all over the United States, and unfortunately, needs to be some way. They're here illegally. There needs to be some punishment involved.
Right.
And, of course, the word's out. They're not wanting to come because they know Trump's after them. Sure. But the significant thing is a lot of them are going back on their own.
Sure.
And I can get in my truck in the morning and drive 13 and a half miles to my office, and I'll see 3 or 4 vehicles headed south, pickups loaded down with mattresses, furniture, all this stuff heading south. It's every day.
Really?
Yeah, they're going home. I said, we don't want to, they either lost their job,
right,
or they're headed back because they don't want to get sent back and lose everything that they've got. And so we're seeing that every day.
And that in itself is sad, but hey, there's ways to come here legally and
that's it. And they all know they're here illegally. And so consequently, there's consequences.
That's right.
And there's definitely consequences under this administration. But we don't know how many people are here. We don't know how many are criminals. We don't know how many are gang members. We don't know how many are terrorists.
There's no way to ever know.
No way to ever know until we hunt them down, find them in these sanctuary cities or anywhere else, and do what's right, and that's to save our country from any kind of other terrorist activity or fraud like we're seeing in California or Minnesota, other areas, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, this isn't just a local issue that the old local vet's working on. Yeah. This is
finally, after all the years that we've been telling the truth, showing the what's going on out here, the depravity of man. The depravity of the humans that are bringing other humans in here, and their bloodthirsty, cold-blooded murder of people coming in here, it's got to stop, and it has. It has under Trump.
Right.
So far under Trump, we found 0 bodies, 0, and just the opposite under the Democratic administrations. Yep. And so we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
Good for you. I'm behind you, and I know all the rest of us are. Thank you so much for what you do. We really appreciate everything.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad, and more than happy to come back. And if you guys want to go out with us at one of our operations, see exactly what we do, interview some of our volunteers, we'd be happy to do that for you.
That might be a really fun thing to do, and very interesting. And
sure.
The reason we're here is to let people know what life's like here in Texas, and you're a big part of that. I like it. Well, folks, thanks for bearing with us today, and I hope you enjoyed Dr. Vickers and all of his knowledge, and I know you all appreciate his efforts just like I do. So.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and welcome you down here. I'm glad you took notice of what we do, but I wanted you to understand what the people that live here have encountered over the past several decades, and actually since about 1985. And fortunately, finally, we feel some relief. It's almost an ambiance for us to feel safe out here. Instead of you having to be looking behind every tree in case there's somebody there ready to jump on you.
Right.
And unfortunately, we had 4 last night show up, and that's the first ones we've had that we've seen in a while. But the Border Patrol were right on top of it, And they caught 2 of them, and they're out here trying to catch the rest of them.
I bet they get them.
Yeah, they sure will. So anyway, I appreciate you having us on your program.
You bet.
Look forward to seeing it. And if anybody out there has any questions, I'd be glad to visit with them about it.
Thank you.
And so glad you're here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate your hospitality. Enjoyed that. So, folks, we're still down here in the sand sheet of Brooks County, south of Falfurrias, and we are 40, 50 miles from the border, from the Mexican border, as the crow flies.
It's 69 miles from my front gate to the bridge on going into Reynosa, straight down US 281.
Okay, so we're at the front door of the United States of America, in an approximate location where, if and when the screwworm blowfly crosses the border, it'll be here. And Dr. Vickers has been running a vet clinic here for many, many years and has seen all of this come and go. And I think he's going to share some knowledge with us today. What can you tell us about the screwworm? I bet you remember from being a little boy, don't you?
I can. I guess it was back in 1966. My best friend had a boxer dog, and he got screwworms in his ears. And we had I lived in Sinton, Texas, grew up there. My dad was a rancher, and my family, Vickers family, is farmers and ranchers. And we had a vet that lived down the street named Dr. Egan. And he wasn't really, he was a little bit of a practicing vet. He had other investments and stuff. But anyway, my best friend's dog got treated for screwworms. That's where I found out what screwworms are all about. So at that point in time, I was interested in becoming a veterinarian, and ended up going to vet school. I graduated from vet school August 3rd, 1973.
Okay.
And anyway, during that, before I graduated, I went to a vet convention in El Paso. And back in those days, the border was safe. They had dog races at Juarez, and then they had the horse races in New Mexico. And I met a veterinarian named J.M. Baker there at the dog races, and started visiting with him. Well, he invited me down when I graduated, before I graduated, to see if I'd like to go ahead and be a vet and we'll go to work for him. So I did, and when I graduated, 3 days later, I went to Edinburgh, Texas. I lived with him for probably about a year, and he had his house by his clinic, And the first thing he did when I got there, he handed me a dart gun and a case of xylazine to go out and dart Bremer bulls that had screwworms in their prepuce, cows that had screwworms in their ears or their body parts, treat baby calves that were born and had screwworms in their navels.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for a couple of years. I mean, that's, treated screwworms. And then after about 2 years, I moved up here. I saw there was a need and started practicing here in Falfurrias, and been here ever since. And so screwworms were a huge, devastating issue for ranches. Just about 100% of the screwworms, of the calves, the baby calves, would develop screwworms in the navel. One of my best friends at that time, after I met him working for Dr. Baker, was Dick Jones. And he and I drove around all day one day shooting coyotes over dead or sick baby calves. And he probably lost as many as 500 calves over a period of time to screwworms in the navel of those baby calves. Huge, devastating economic loss, even back in those days.
Sure.
And so we're looking at that event happening again.
Yeah.
We've got, and here's what happened. I had a good friend. It's been almost 3 years ago. That was doing a documentary on all the traffic that the Democrats were letting come through the Darien Gap down in South America, close to Colombia. And he sent me a message and sent me some pictures and even called me and said, there's screwworms and the people in the Darien Gap. I said, you got to be kidding. No, he said, they're coming this way. Well, probably 3 or 4 months later, he called me again and said they're in Panama now. A few months later, he stayed in touch with me. And during that period of time, I went on a cruise with my wife down to Mexico and then Honduras, and I went ashore and I kind of looked into that situation. Well, I found out from some of the locals the screwworms were already in Honduras, and then in Costa Rica, and then Nicaragua, and they were headed this way,
marching this way.
Yeah, and so I guess it's been about a couple of months ago. I call the House Ag Committee, and I do work for the USDA down here at Moore Field. I kind of help supervise the health of the research animals. They usually have over 200 steers that are naive steers that have never had any vaccinations or anything, and when they have research vets there, and these guys are real smart. Some of them have actually worked in that Panamanian screwworm plant that produces the sterile flies, usually 100,000 of sterile flies a week. And some of them have been there and worked in that, and that is a 100% USDA American-owned facility there. Well, I visited with them, and I found out that this was on a Monday. They were ready to start dropping flies after the screwworm left Panama, got in these other countries in Central America, and were already in the 3 states that border Central America: Tabasco, I guess Victoria. I can't remember the three, but those 3 states, they wanted to start dropping flies in those 3 states. Well, the Secretary of Agriculture said, no, we're not going to let you fly. So that Monday, I called the House Ag Committee. I have a real close friend that's the lead consultant for the House Ag Committee. Worked right underneath the chairman from Pennsylvania. And I told him what was going on. These guys are from Moorfield are telling me that they're not allowed to fly and drop flies in those 3 border states in Mexico and bordering Panama. And they already got flies there, screwworm flies. Right. And he told me, he said, Trump's going to need to push the button. That's it. Tuesday, they were flying. So.
How long ago was that? It's
been a couple of months when they first started flying.
Okay.
It may have been, it may have been February or March, I can't remember exactly, thinking back. But they started flying screwworms into those 3 states. And, of course, it's not near enough. After visiting with, some people up the chain with the USDA in the 70s, that, like I reported, we had to drop 700,000 sterile flies a week
to
right. contain that outbreak, and it took a while to get that done.
Yeah.
And so what they had was a facility. We developed a facility down there in Moorfield, same air base where the fever tick research is being done, yes, which is a big program, actually. Fever tick is a big threat for us here.
Yes, sir.
We had a significant portion of this county under quarantine up until probably 5 or 6 months ago. And the screwworms are or just as bad, or maybe even a worse threat of absolutely, because of the impact it has on the animals.
Right.
But anyway, to make a long story short, that's where the old screwworm facility was on at Moore Field, down there close to where the fever tick research program is.
Right.
And it burned down a few years ago, but they just built a new one. You saw our Secretary of Agriculture and the governor down there a couple of months ago when they opened that facility up, and they're starting to. They still haven't got to the point where they can produce the sterile flies. They're actually flying them in from Panama, and maybe a sterile fruit flies facility that they've reconverted back into a screwworm facility.
Right.
I was down there in a meeting, it's been about 5 or 6 weeks ago at South Padre with a regional area vet for the Animal Health Commission.
You were a commissioner with Animal Health Commission, weren't you, at one time? Or?
Yes, I was the vet commissioner representing all the veterinarians in Texas. 2 6-year appointments by Governor Perry, and then a 3.5-year appointment by Governor Abbott. So I was there for 5.5 years. And I still have an association with them and work with them. They actually had a screwworm, a fever tick research facility of their own. They cut back and shut that down. It was down south of Harlingen a few years ago.
Okay.
But anyway, the USDA got a lot of help with the big new bill from Trump, and they got money for the screwworm also. Well, anyway, at this event, we found out there were at least 35 people in Mexico that had died from screwworm infections. And I remember back in the 70s, we actually had people in this area die, and it was usually people in under hospice care, where the screwworms were lay eggs underneath the nose. Larvae would migrate up and migrate into the brain and kill them. I remember an elderly couple in Laredo that were living on their own by themselves, and screwworms killed them. And there were some elderly people in this area, the same thing, died of screwworm infections. And so, but there were people dying in Mexico that were trying to get in here that had screwworms and had died. So, but they're dropping the sterile flies here now,
right?
And have been doing so for several weeks. And what they did, the USDA went back and they kept real accurate statistics about the 90,000 known cases that were sent to them for confirmation. And back in those days, the 70s, we were given I carried them. I've still got a bunch of them. A little box with a return address to the USDA.
With a test tube in it?
Yeah, with a tube in it with some alcohol in it.
Yeah. To
put the screwworm. Well, they tested over 90,000 of those samples sent in and where they came from. And the geographical location of where the highest concentration of these samples were sent in from. And that's where they started dropping these screwworm flies,
right?
The sterile ones. And I talked to a Animal Health Commission inspector about 3 weeks ago, and he said they've got those fly traps along the river, but other areas, in these areas where they're dropping the screwworm, the sterile flies.
Right.
And that week, I think they had caught 37, but they were the sterile flies, and they check them with an ultraviolet light, and they light up and all that.
Yeah.
But so far, as of recent, maybe a week or so ago, we haven't had a case here in Texas yet.
Yeah, from what I understand.
But I could be wrong. I'm gonna check. Now, I have had at least 2 people come in that had cows die during the drought that claimed that those cows had screwworms. My guess, but they didn't report them. And there's a little bit of a disconnect between what you got to do when you see or suspect a screwworm. And I hope this message gets out call me. I'll put you in touch with a Texas Animal Health Commission inspector or a USDA inspector. They will come out and look at that carcass or that problem, collect the screwworm larva, and have them identified. And that's what they'd like for us to do.
Okay.
We're not handing out those kits anymore. We want to call a USDA or an Animal Health Commission inspector to come out and investigate that situation.
Okay. We'll help get that word out
Yeah.
for sure. You know, I guess what scares me the most about it, and I have vague recollections when I was a little boy of helping my grandfather working cattle and whatnot. When the screwworms were still around. That would have been the early 70s. And if you think back to the early 70s, cattle and deer were the primary hosts of the larva. And I'll bet you back then we had a deer to every 30 or 40 acres across this landscape. Obviously, a lot of cattle. But today, in many areas, we have a deer to 5 or 10 acres. We have exotic species. And we have feral hogs that didn't exist at that time. And what I see is an army of hosts that we didn't have back then, right? I mean, there's just that many more warm-blooded animals in our pastures than there were back then. And you couple that with, tell me where I'm wrong, you're the expert, but you couple that with the fact that at that time they said we were releasing 6 to 7, I don't know if it's 100,000 or 100 million per week to get those flies choked back. Today, I think we can only make 100 a week, and that's all coming from Panama. It's going to take a year or two to start producing them here in the valley at Moorfield. And so it may be 5 years before we can produce 600 or 700 million a week is what I'm getting at. And so I'm kind of looking around going, what's going to get us between the time we get them now and when we actually have enough flies to beat them back in mass? Do you think we have enough flies now to hold them for a while, or?
I don't. And I've talked to some experts. The amazing thing is, I've been around so long, I'm an antique. But most of the inspectors, with the exception of a few tick riders, older guys that stayed on, most of them have never seen a screwworm.
Right.
They're young guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been going through some training sessions in Laredo and all the whole area,
Good.
to see what a suspected animal looks like that's infected with screwworms.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about as far as the wildlife, we've got some exotic African plains game breeders here. You go down to the valley, you drive by several places where, it's like going on the Serengeti. I've got one client that has just about every African plains game you can name, including a big herd of sable.
Mm-hmm.
Those sable females pregnant bring 50,000 plus.
You bet they do.
These animals are high dollar animals.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another guy across the road. Unfortunately, he just passed away here a few weeks ago, and he has some giraffes. Heck, those giraffes are 80,000 plus, maybe 200,000.
Right.
And he's even built a giraffe barn that's like, gosh, it's got to be almost 20 feet tall, 25 feet tall, and they can walk in and walk out, and he's got some giraffes. I've exported giraffes from north of San Antonio to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
All these African plains game that are high dollar, and there's a huge market for them in Mexico also. Wealthy ranchers that have big game ranches there, and I do business with them as well. But the thing about that outbreak in the 70s, just my neighbor right here next door, he probably was running about 2,000 cows. At the end of the screwworm problem, none of them had ears. they'd get ear ticks, and he'd have to he had a crew working 7 days a week, 30 cowboys on horseback, running those cattle through the chute, medicating the ears, cutting the diseased ears off, spraying for the screw worms, treating the umbilicus on the calves. It was every single day. And he had like probably about 150, 160 horses back in those days. They weren't quite flying and gathering with helicopters yet.
Right.
He had 30 cowboys and all these horses. Horses, the same thing. They'd get ear ticks and the screwworms would eat their ears off. And you couldn't find 30 cowboys in South Texas now. They've all gone to the oil field.
Yeah.
They could work on the weekend. They'd be glad to get out there and work their horses.
Sure.
But you're not going to find 30 in one day, I can promise you.
That's right.
So that's going to be a huge threat.
Right.
And a huge problem for us if, in fact, they get here and you got to gather those cattle. I've got two or three ranches, actually, that one has leased a ranch in North Texas and moved their exotic animals up there to that
I
area.
heard about that. I bet it's the same person.
Yes.
About 2 weeks ago, they were hauling north.
And I've got a couple of other ranchers down close to Rio Grande City. They've got 300 or 400 head. They're calling me and said, should I sell out? Should I sell out? I'm not going to tell them no.
Yeah.
But getting back in the cattle business is going to be an expensive process. So they're kind of, holding out and waiting.
Yeah, that's pretty tough on the rancher.
Yeah, it is. And, it's going to be and some of my sources with the government, the USDA, they were predicting that we might see them as soon as March. Well, they hadn't got here.
Right. That's
And
great.
part of it is because of the weather we had.
Well,
Some real cold weather at the right time.
Right.
Setting them back.
Mhm.
I pray to God that we do not have them because it'll be a real economic disaster, especially with these 200, 300-pound calves bringing $1,400 to $1,800.
First time in my life they've been worth that kind of money.
It's unbelievable. I've got a situation right now. We're building fences, and I'm missing about 35 head. I know where a lot of them are. They're on my neighbor because some of his are over here.
Right.
And it's the now guy have torn our fences down. Our fences needed to be repaired anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the now guy, it's like a month ago, I had 19 now guy over here in my front yard.
Yeah.
And what they do, they push the fences down, tear the fences down, the cattle get out, they go both ways. And I've got probably at least 20 or 25 head, not only on my neighbor, but his neighbor to the north.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so probably he's got a helicopter now. Same guy that had the 160 horses, 150 horses.
Mm-hmm.
I got one of them in a clinic right now that's got cut up. He's got about 30. But I'm hoping he'll be able to catch mine. They're all supposedly, according to the manager over there, it's a big ranch. They're all in a 2,000 acre pasture right next to the highway.
Oh, well, that's good.
And he'll get his helicopter, run them over here, and then put them in his pens, and then we'll
Right.
sort through them. All my cows are branded, but none of the calves.
Right.
So it's going to be a deal,
Yeah.
an ordeal.
Yeah. Do some
But
cowboy.
we're building fence right now.
We talked earlier about the feral hog. The nil guy is the other one that I failed to mention that don't respect fences very much. And that's why they scare me as the super spreaders of the fly can only spread through the larva. And a host that doesn't respect fences is a real problem.
Well, and that's right. And what we're doing, we're actually building our fences where there could be a area, maybe 5 or 6 areas over 2 or 3 miles where they can go under instead of trying to jump over. What those males will do, they'll come up to a fence and just kind of crawl over, just kind of press their weight. And, notice the fences over there, they're like this,
Yeah.
But they were a big problem for the tick force also. And last year, I think I was put on notice. I said, they built a new Nalgai facility. It's already been built, and they're going to be putting at least 100 Nalgai in it. to check on what would work for them. They won't eat Ivomec treated corn. Um, and what we did, they trapped at least 50, maybe 100, I can't remember the number, of nalgai down there in that Atascosa refuge close to Brownsville.
Yes, sir.
And put a collar on them so that they could go back and net them again, find out where they are with the collar they've got, and put them in that facility down there at Moore Field. Well, I was down there a couple of weeks ago. They still hadn't put them in there, but they're fixing to. Good. And then they built a deer facility also. So the big new bill of Trump is going to support not only the fever tick testing cattle, but also nalgai and white-tailed deer.
White-tailed deer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the way these nalgai travel, it's been about 2 years ago, they actually netted some, put a collar on them to see how far they go. One male the next day, less than 24 hours away, was 13 miles away. And then they had a female the next day that was 9 miles away.
That's interesting. That the female traveled almost as far as the male. That's kind of counterintuitive to me. But they're a different kind of animal too.
They move a lot.
Yeah,
they move a lot.
I guess my grandfather. Our ranch is over near Encinal. Been there since 1942. My family's owned that. And I remember when I was, I had seen the screwer. I was around it when I was 6 or 8 years old. And I'll never forget, several years later, I was with my grandfather. His name was Archie Long. And we were driving down one of our fences.
Archie Long?
Mm-hmm. Long Brothers Drilling Company out of Miranda City. You might have known him.
I do.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think I've got them as clients.
It's entirely possible.
A long time ago.
Yeah, it's entirely
a long
possible.
time ago.
Yeah, the family, sure.
Yeah, long.
God. That's funny. But anyway, so we're driving down the fence one day, and I noticed that this is a cross fence, not a boundary fence. There's 3 strands of barbed wire in the center, and the top strand and the bottom strand were heavy gauge galvanized wire, no barbs.
Yeah.
And I said, Grandpa, why'd you build that fence that way? I've never noticed that with the slick wire like that. And he said that was for the screwworms, because he said when the deer would go under the fences or jump them, the barbs would scratch their legs or their bellies, and that fly would lay an egg and, dead deer. So I thought that was kind of neat. I mean, he was kind of a pioneer back in the 60s when he probably built that fence, and that was pretty good thinking. And I had somebody asking me a while back, what can we do at the ranch? And I said, well, honestly, not a whole lot. But you might want to think about if you got feed pins for your deer or catch pins for your cattle that are barbed wire, every one of those barbs is a potential weapon that opens you up to a blowfly.
Screwworms.
Yeah. So it's kind of scary to think about it. But to this point, I'm the kind of person that believes, we were talking earlier when we talked about the border issues, and we talked about private-public partnerships. I think that when you have a problem as big as what this could be, looks like it will be, who knows, you have to look at all options to try to solve a problem, not just one. I think that everyone who knows anything about the screwworm, knows the history, knows that the sterile fly is the answer. It's the ultimate answer. I mean, if they get here and if we're going to get rid of them, it's going to be through the use of the sterile fly, period. What scares me is we're way behind on fly production. We're not going to get there for a long time, and we need to bridge that gap. And I've heard of 2 solutions coming from the private sector. One of them is these mobile sterilization units. I've read up on them a little bit. Seems like they ought to work. And using feed additives, using ivermectin, again, in feed rations for both livestock and wildlife to try to beat them back. Because, if we can get the right levels of ivermectin in the bloodstream, we can prevent that larva from ever taking hold. So if you don't mind, what is your thoughts on some of the different options we have besides the sterile fly? Is the feed a good option or not? I just don't know.
No, actually, you're right. ivermectin in the feed is probably going to be very, very effective, hopefully. My work with the fever tick research, this is what they use in the quarantine zone or on quarantine property or even adjacent property. When you get a quarantine on fever tick, it doesn't just impact the ranch that they found fever ticks on. In this area east of US 281, there's a 3-mile quarantine around that ranch where all of those cattle 100% need to be scratched and checked. And then what they do, they put medicated feed out for the deer. What they do, they mix corn, mix Ivomec Poron, 100 cc's of Ivomec Poron in 50 bags of corn and a cement mixer, put that out in the feeders in the quarantine pasture and in the adjacent pasture to treat the deer, and that is very effective against killing the fever tick. Also, they also put molasses tubs out, and there's a guy in Sealy, Texas, that produces those for them. And I've even gotten molasses tubs from him years ago. He has a contract with the USDA.
Yes, sir.
He gets this powdered Ivomec made in China, delivered directly to him. He's got a special federal permit to get it from the USDA, and he puts it in the molasses tubs. And those molasses tubs are put on quarantine property, or in property in the tick zone, or on adjacent property, and that helps keep the fever tick down.
So he has a permit from the government to produce these.
And he actually, it's been months ago, maybe last year, he actually sent some down to Panama, and they put them out on Panamanian property, ranch property, to find out if it works against screwworm. And my information from some reliable sources said it did. So people like Ronnie Eckel and other feed producers have been trying to get that powdered Ivomec for a long time. And what the holdup is the FDA. The FDA, for some reason, is holding it up at the border. We've found out that there's an American company down in Mexico, close to Mexico City, that has a warehouse full of it. And they're willing to sell it to these producers here in Texas and in the United States, like Ronnie Eckel. But for some reason, they're having a big problem crossing it across the border. This is the last I knew about it after talking with Ronnie Eckel weeks ago. And I'm not sure exactly where they are with it, but that is something that needs to be released. And they can put it in the range cubes. They can put it into cattle feed. They can put it into the molasses tubs, or let ranchers have access to these molasses tubs that the USDA has or has access to. We also looked at a study that was done in Australia. Australia has screwworms, and they did a study down there. I received the results of the study. They castrated 77 calves and gave them a shot of Dectomax. Dectomax is what the fever tick research guys use when they scratch infected property or an infected herd every 28 days. I've had them scratch my herd over there south of Hubbardville years ago, and they give those animals a shot of Dectomax. And that Dectomax will kill those screwworm larvae. And work for a long period of time, up to 28 days, I guess.
Right.
But the Dectomax works real good. And in that particular study in in Australia, they checked those. They gave them a shot of Dectomax, castrated them, and then monitored them every day until they were completely healed up. They did not have one case of screwworm. In the control group of 108 head, they monitored them every day and had 44 or 48% infection rate.
Right.
So we know the Dectomax works good in cattle. As far as other species, we don't know.
Well, and we can't catch our deer
Well, that's it.
and give them an injection every 3 weeks. It's illegal and it's impossible.
They do make Decamax Poron, but I don't think it's as effective as the injectable.
Right.
And so we're looking at a potential disaster.
Yes, sir.
Especially when some of the experts are telling me that they suspect we'll see them.
Yes, I mean the experts I've spoken to say they're coming.
Yeah.
They'll be here. We don't have the tools to stop them at this point.
Yeah.
And we don't have the tools to run them off when they get here. So in my mind, we just need to figure out how to keep them alive until we can get enough of these sterile flies to be released to eradicate them.
Yeah.
And me personally, as a landowner, as a wildlife producer, I'm not willing to take an answer like the flies are on their way. Just hold on to your shorts. No, that's not a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do?
Well,
and I think we need every tool.
The fact that they're dropping them here now tells me that the majority suspect they're going to get here.
Correct. Yeah, I would agree.
Instead of dropping them in Tampico and Ciudad Victoria, where we know they've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some Mexican clients. I did some business for some of them just here a couple of weeks ago. And they're talking to some of their rancher friends in Mexico. Mexico's not leveling with us on the truth on where they are.
I keep hearing that as well.
Well, there's good, credible people there.
Mm-hmm.
But my feeling is that their SAGARPA, their affiliate comparable to USDA, is probably not. There's not enough of them to make the visits to report the infections.
Right.
And the rancher finds a screwworm situation. He treats it. Maybe makes a phone call, but nobody shows up.
Right.
It could be a manpower issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call them liars or
it's
cheaters
not all
or
foul
anything
play.
like that.
Sure.
But that's how diverse and how spread out it could be. But 2 or 3 of these guys that I do business with are guys that have ranches over there, but have ranches here also.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of them have captive deer herds. And I have to do the rectal biopsies and regulatory work for them to keep their permit. And they're telling me that, there's more in Mexico than we think. And it could be a manpower issue.
Right.
Makes sense. It's not an intentional thing.
Right.
It's just a manpower thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys don't trust some of the politicians in Mexico either.
Well, and then there's another problem, and you made a good point to encourage all people to report.
Yeah.
When we do get them, to report cases in their pastures, and a lot of people are just scared to death to do that, and so that's a fear that I have, is that we may have the same problem as Mexico, is they may be here, but nobody wants to talk about it because they're afraid of what's going to happen, what the government agency is going to do, the quarantine, what treatments are available. There's no answer, so I don't want to tell anybody I have it, and that's a fear that I have.
Well, one of the things too that a lot of these Mexican clients of mine are affluent Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
They're the upper echelon of the economic division in Mexico, where you have the real poor people down there. You have some that are scraping by, and then you have people that have been there since the 17th century.
No middle class, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like one of them. He's got a son at Notre Dame. He's got a daughter that's doing a residency in medicine, New York City, and they're all educated, and they're educated in the United States, and a lot of them are American citizens too. Sure. They've moved to Laredo or moved to San Antonio or wherever, and become American citizens, and but they're the type of guys who level with you, tell you the truth,
right?
But my feeling is that if anything, it's probably a logistics problem and a manpower problem, if in fact what they're telling me is true, that all these cases aren't being reported.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the USDA can't stay on top of that either.
No way. Sure.
But anyway, we're doing what we have to do. But the fact that we can put Ivomec in these molasses tubs and feed, we know will help our livestock, in particular our cattle operations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the Decamax will help us. Now, I've got one client, one or two clients that are actually putting it in the corn for some of their African species to keep from having a problem.
Right.
They're in a panic mode.
Well, I know, as you mentioned, Ronnie Eckel and his son Charles over at Lycian Eckel Feeds, they've been working on this tirelessly for a year, doing private research on their own dime. My understanding is that they've got a little bit of government help going on with that now, and they're looking hard into it. And I hope they're successful in getting that approved. Do I necessarily think that antibiotics in our feeds for eternity is a good thing? No, it's not. But if it'll keep my deer herd alive for a year until I can get the ample number of flies, I'm going to use it.
Oh, sure. And I've got a lot of people with captive deer herds, and they've been putting the Ivomec treated corn in front of their deer for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ever since I got that report 3 years ago, and then keeping up with it, and it's a good dewormer because captive deer are real susceptible to internal parasites. The fourth stage larva of the barber pole worm and all these other internal parasites are constantly preying on them, being in a closed environment. The Ivomec treated corn helps clean them up.
Sure. Absolutely. And, if we can get all those tools, if we can get the deer pellets in our feeders, there's a logistics problem with the corn and the Ivomec. Most people, it takes a lot of manpower to take a cement mixer and mix Ivomec with corn and distribute it evenly. The good news is, especially here in South Texas, that the white-tailed deer has become such a huge part of our economy. So many of these ranches now have feed delivery systems in place. They've been feeding protein pellets for 20 years. The deer are accustomed to the ration. They know what it is. If you got a 10-year-old buck, he's been eating that feed since he was a fawn. We can get that medication into these animals, and we can save them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. People like Ronnie Eckel, they really care about what's going to happen.
Right.
And that have had experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he distributes feed in Mexico. Mm-hmm. He distributes feed in New Mexico.
Right.
He's got feed distribute. I use our Ronnie Eckel, and he's the type of guy that's going to probably step up and get it done to protect all the animals that he provides feed for.
Right.
And he's been trying to get that powdered supplement for a long time, and he stepped up to try to get it done.
I sure hope that our agencies will get on board.
I haven't visited with him in a while, but I want to give him a call and kind of get an update from his perspective, and then I'll give him an update on what I know working with the USDA and
I'd like to get an update
guys.
from you. That would be fascinating from your perspective.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard people say, well, it's just a profit motive. He's just trying to sell more feed. He's shared all of his information with all the other feed manufacturers. I know that for a fact.
He's not trying to stick it in his pocket and maintain everything for himself. He wants to get rid of the problem.
Right.
And that's the kind of guy he is. He's a man of faith, no question, and he believes in helping his fellow man. Yep. And he does a great job on his feed. I can tell you that.
Yes, sir.
Anyway.
My understanding is about $1 per bag of feed for them to put the appropriate amount of Ivomec into.
Not a bad deal.
I don't know anyone who won't pay that.
Yeah.
And, the argument, I've heard a couple of arguments. One is not everybody can afford it. Not everybody feeds their deer. No doubt. But even if we can create islands of wildlife if the people who can afford it, who are willing to distribute that feed,
Yeah.
and we have islands of thriving wildlife, if and when populations start getting wiped out in certain areas, they're going to repopulate much faster. And so we're going to need those islands of healthy animals.
Well, there are actually ranches down here that uh, have lots of wildlife, run a lot of cattle, but don't do any hunting.
Yeah.
Don't do any hunting, so they're not putting feed out for the wildlife,
Right.
and
And that's their prerogative.
But something like they realize the value of it. It's just like one foundation down here. It's mainly a research property, hundreds of thousands of acres, and they have wildlife research. Well, they would probably go to treating that wildlife if, in fact, these screwworms start showing up on this side of the river. And my feeling is they would, because their research animals are going to be dead. Yeah. And then there's other ranches also, same thing. There's some big ranches that don't hunt.
Sure.
And then there's some that do hunt that will be adding medicated feed out to try to contain an outbreak.
Right.
So,
if the agencies will listen to the producers and we can all work together, we can lick this deal.
Well, to go back to that meeting I was in down at South Padre with the Animal Health Commission, with other people, other veterinarians in the other area, Parks and Wildlife was there, and their head guy for the area was there. And they had a big presence there, and they're really concerned about our wildlife and the screwworm issue.
We have to be.
Yeah.
We absolutely. I mean, I'm a ranch broker by trade. Sold ranches all over the state of Texas, and I know for a fact, I've had my real estate license for 40 years, and I know for a fact that cattle ranchers quit buying ranches when it went past about $1,000 an acre, because you can't pay for a ranch with cattle. Maybe with cattle prices these days, it's more possible than it's ever been. But the point is that these property values are based on wildlife today. So much of it. And I can't imagine the devastation, if we lose large chunks of our wildlife, hunting opportunity is gone, license sales go down, lease payments aren't coming to these ranchers anymore. The small town cafes where the hunters eat lunch every Friday evening on their way into town, they're going to dry up. We just can't rest on our laurels and hope this goes away until we get flies.
Well, in these hunting camps, it's just like one of these places over east of us here, hundreds of thousands of acres, and the guy that leases them has built 2 multi-million-dollar hunting lodges. He owns an oil company. His son owns his own oil company. His other son owns his own oil company. His daughter owns an oil company. And they have a lot of people hired to feed the wildlife.
A lot of jobs.
And there's one operation over there that it's about a 30,000 acre tract on one of these big ranches. And it's owned and operated by a private company out of South Carolina. Well, they've got an operation there where a friend of mine, they hired him and his big string of horses to hunt nilgai on horseback. And they hunt them on north. These are all real gentle horses and everything. They hunt them on horseback, and then if they see one, they got to get off and shoot him. And it's like hunting in Africa on horseback. And it's the same thing with all these other places where they hunt the quail on horseback. They've got the outriders out there pointing at the dog because the grass is too high.
Right.
And then the truck drives up, everybody gets off, goes out, flushes the covey, bang, bang, get back in. The guys go find another covey with the dogs on horseback.
Right.
So there's a lot of people have jobs during hunting season.
Ooh.
And these guys that have horses, they've got a job every day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well,
anyway,
it's just not my goal to scare people. It's coming, and it's a very scary issue. But if we can look at put all the tools on the table and use what works, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
I just hope that that we have the public awareness, people know what's coming, and will tell the people that matter what we need.
Well, exactly. And, you know, by the grace of God, I hope we don't have it, but we need to be prepared and ready for it. And I think most of the ranchers in this area are. Actually, I believe today they've got a event in Three Rivers at the sale yard where not only the inspectors are going to be there, but it's opened up to all the ranchers so they can outline a protocol if in fact you see a suspected animal on your property with screwworms, who to call, how to handle it, how to mitigate it. And it's going to be at all these sale yards in this area.
That's what we need is public awareness and education.
I got an email on it, but that's to reinforce information to everybody in the area that has animals, whether it be small animals, African plains game, captive deer, wildlife, wild hogs, turkeys, quail, everything, cattle, horses, donkeys, sheep, goats, you name it.
Warm human beings.
And they're getting ready, and that's another clue that kind of leads me to believe that some sources are expecting them to get here.
Very well said. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I'm glad they're doing it. I applaud them for their efforts to inform the public. Everybody needs to know what's going on so that we're all on the same team when the time comes. So.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you for your time. You're always a wealth of information.
It's always a pleasure, and look forward to seeing the interview on.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it all put together, and you'll be the first to see it. How about that?
Good deal.
Well, here's some stuff I wanted to give you, and you can open
up.
Oh,
thank you.
I got you some ball caps, and my wife, Stephanie, always, she's got a bunch of chickens.
Yeah.
And so she sent you a bunch of fresh eggs from the house.
Oh, thank you. We love that's what we used to have chickens here, but the raccoons and the skunks and everything else, they'd dig underneath and get underneath. We put wire there.
It's a constant battle.
Oh, it was a constant battle.
That's ranch life.
Yeah, we had one get in here. We don't know how he got in there, and he killed about 10 or 12 chickens. Just killed them all.
Oh, they'll kill every one of them.
Yeah,
just for fun, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway.
Well, folks, thank you again for joining us today. And like I always say, remember that life's always better when there's dirt under your feet. Y'all have a good day.